another episode of the Grace Family Love Podcast. Grateful and just excited, happy to be back with you guys. Happy to have Vanessa here. She's having an up day.
Yay!
So that's always a plus.
I wish I had those clapping hands right now.
I hope that it continues that way. So just as we were talking before, what is it that kind of God's been pressing into your heart?
So, by the way, guys, we are a part of an app called the Wisdom app. And I was telling Joe today that I did a quick little message on the Wisdom app. And it's kind of like, I guess you can say like a podcast app, but except it has, like, people are having conversations. You can join and ask questions, or there's just little, like, somebody called it the little nuggets of wisdom. You know what I mean? So people just go up there and just share a good, just a positive message. And then you can go ahead and take that with you.
Well, you just have to be careful that who you're choosing to follow is giving a positive message, because it's literally like the internet. So anybody can go and do it. So with caution. So
just know that, like, my point is that it's kind of just like your Instagram feed. You know that when you're going on your Instagram feed, you're going to see all kinds of things. You know what I mean? It's just like that. But you have to know that the people on here, you know, mean well. Not, you have to listen, of course, with filter. Or, you know, like you said, choose the right people. But one of the things that I was talking about is just when things don't go your way, what happens? What does that even mean? Yeah. And you were reading a verse earlier, and that's kind of what I want to go based off. Can you read the verse for me?
Yeah, it's out of Proverbs. So Proverbs 19:21 says, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails."
Can you read it one more time?
Yeah,
listen really closely, guys.
"Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails."
So I want you to understand that you might have all these ideas and these dreams and these wants, like right now in this moment. And a lot of the times they're not going the way that you want it to be because it's not necessarily time. And the preparation is part of the process. And what does that mean? That means that if you love the Lord, okay, and if God is the center of your life and God is a part of your life, then you have to know that everything, even the bad stuff, is going to be used to be able to bring you back to God's purpose for your life. And he's going to use that in the purpose that he has for you. So when things don't go your way, just understand and know, if you're really trusting in this God that you say you trust in, then you have to believe and know that he's looking out for you and is saying, not right now, or maybe no, because I have something better. Or maybe just wait because it's not time. You know, if we gave our kids literally everything that they wanted, then we wouldn't be good parents. And it brought to my attention today when I was getting Lily ready for church. She's like, I want to just wear this. And I'm like, no, you have to wear this. And she's like, this doesn't fit. And I'm just like, it does fit. You just don't like it, but it fits you. And she's like, well, I just want to wear this. And I go, okay. You have to understand that I'm not just trying to be mean and make you wear whatever I want to make you wear. It's cold outside, so you can't wear a short sleeve shirt and you can't wear shorts. She had pulled literally like a pajama shirt and shorts when it's like almost raining outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in her mind, she just knows what she wants. Yeah. She's not the parent. And I told her, baby, you're not the parent. So you're not thinking about all these other things that are not even on your radar. You know, like, I'm thinking about the weather. I'm thinking about keeping you warm. I'm thinking about, like, you know, so people don't say, like, this girl just woke up and her mom just dragged her to church like that. You know what I mean? I go, I'm literally thinking about everything that you can possibly think of because I love you. And your interest is my interest. Like, I want the best for you. And that's exactly the way we got to think about when things don't go our way. You know, that God really wants the best for us. And it might not look like he's, you know, giving you what you want, but you have to not be like Lily and be like, I just want this because I want it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I almost feel sometimes like nothing ever goes the way that I plan. You know, honestly, I that's just kind of the way that I feel. And I'm not saying that it's all bad, you know, or everything that happens to me is terrible. I'm just saying more times than not, it doesn't actually work out the way I plan. Yeah. And in the end, the outcome, let's say I'm really happy with it, I'm grateful, I find myself saying, oh, well, this worked out better than I thought.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So at those moments, I kind of attribute that to, okay, thanks God for kind of coming through when I was probably, going off somewhere into the wild. You saved me somehow, and there are other times where I have no plan and I don't agree, I don't feel comfortable with going into life that way all the time. But there are times where I just I have no idea how this is going to work, but I just kind of have to step out in faith. And when it works out in the end, I'm like, man, thank you, Lord, because that was all you. I didn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
And I'm learning that to trust God in that way, it's actually more beneficial. And I'm learning to not stress out about the details in between, which is really hard for me because details are really hard for me to overlook. And I'm looking at the details of everything, right? Like spelling, grammar, little nuances. If things are not symmetrical, it kind of bothers me. It's really weird. It's stressful to be in my brain, but God is helping me out with those things because in my mind, I need to know as much as possible, all the available information before I step out and do this thing, whatever that might be. And God's like, that's kind of not what I do. If I almost feel like God is telling me, if I told you everything, you probably wouldn't want to keep going. Yeah. And so I'm just grateful in the process that I'm learning that I don't have to know everything about everything. I don't have to understand all the details. And I'm totally comfortable right now in this moment, this point in life, because I've gone through so much, walking through it with you, that I'm so grateful that even though I have plans in my heart, even though I make plans to do all these great things and do good, I know that God's purpose is ultimately what will prevail. And what that does is it relieves and alleviates, for me to have the responsibility all the time and feel like I have to get it right all the time. I just feel like if I can do my best to be faithful and to serve God right where I'm at, no matter what the situation is, I know that He's going to make sure that it turns out okay in the end. Yeah. And that for me is a big comfort, because with all this stuff going on with your health and everything, there's no answers. We've never gone through it before. And so I can't imagine how you're feeling. And then I don't know what the outcome's going to be. I'm trying not to Google things and trying not to get all the information myself because I just don't know. Yeah. And I just pray that God in the end, I know He will be faithful to kind of see us through.
And He is, and He will. And one of the things that I was telling the people on the Wisdom Up today is that, two things happen, and I described it, and I'm pretty sure that I've described this scenario and I've said this story, but I love to say it because it's such a visual. And you take, for me, for instance, and replay this every time something doesn't go your way. Like the water bottle falls down and you're just like, the water bottle fell down, this sucks, my life sucks, and you spend hours being bitter about it and being upset. And then you have the people that are like, oh shoot, I just dropped my water bottle, let me grab it, and grabbed it. And then they moved on with their life. But you're still stuck being bitter and being upset because you didn't get what you want. Yeah. And a lot of the times, you can't see, but we look just like that kid crying, throwing a tantrum, stomping his feet because they didn't get what they want. And literally over a job, over a relationship, over finances, whatever it is,
a dog.
A dog. I'm going to poke your eyes out right now. You know what I mean? And it's frustrating, but it's true. You know what I mean? So one of the things that I was saying is you can literally get bitter about it. And you know what? Speaking about that, I'm going to talk about that. Yeah. Because what he's saying is, we had this conversation or this disagreement. Lily had asked for a dog and she was literally crying. She was hysterically crying. She was upset. Her dreams were broken. Her heart was ripped out of her chest. Yeah. If you could literally, that's how it was. So, I told Joe, I was sad because this is really something that she wanted. But one of the things that I did notice is, before, I would have been mad at Joe, and I wouldn't, if he would have said let me hug you, I'd been don't even touch me, don't even look at me, but I went and I hugged him, and I was expressing myself to him, but I was hugging him. I wasn't bitter about it. I wasn't upset about it. Like I felt what I was feeling, but I didn't push myself away. And that's what we do when we get upset because we don't get what we want. We push away, and we push away from the people that can actually fix the problem, like God, or the people that you need to confront in order to fix it. You know what I mean? And you just run away. You run away from the problem.
Yeah.
And it doesn't solve anything. So what I wanted to just, talk about is that, don't let bitterness get the best of you. Yeah. Don't let bitterness rule your life over things that maybe it's not time right now. Like, don't let it. Allow the process of just living life and not knowing exactly everything, like Joe said, and being content and knowing that it's going to be okay, because the ruler of this whole galaxy, this universe, this world, this planet has your best interest in mind. And a lot of the times we try to find like the whole, like we might make fun of it because it's like, oh, the universe has it out for me. Or if the universe decides, it's like, no, God already decided your life, your future, the plans he has for you. What does that verse say?
I know the plans I have for you.
Like, he knows the plans.
Yeah.
You don't know the plans, but he knows the plans. And you have to know that, like, God didn't plan out something crummy for you.
Yeah.
But you have to get aligned. You have to get aligned, and you have to just enjoy the journey, because when you're done with your process, you're done. You're gone. Like, you don't want to be gone. It's part of, like, the adventure is in the process. It's in the whole journey and all the little bits and pieces around it,
Yeah. And I think too that being in alignment with God is what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being in alignment with God, it has so many benefits that are beyond what we can achieve on our own.
Yeah.
And the benefits are quite strange, but it doesn't really have anything to do with material stuff.
No.
Right? It means that, like, for you in your situation, even though you're in the midst of pain in this process, like being in alignment with God and allowing God to move in your life, it helps you to go beyond the circumstance of your body right now.
Yeah.
So that even though you're in pain, there's still hope for a better tomorrow.
Yeah.
When you don't have God in your life, you don't have that hope. And it doesn't matter how good life is, right? There are people that have so much more than we have, but there are also people that have so much less than we have. Mm-hmm. So you might find yourself less, having just enough, having more, having an abundance of, but without God to fill that place, that void in your heart, like you'll always be left wanting more. And that's the thing, like when you have God in your life, that void is filled, and that desire to want to have more, that never enough sensation is gone. Yeah. And that produces a different type of satisfaction and a different type of freedom that we can only experience in Christ. And at that point, it's like being, I don't know if this is a bad analogy, but it's like being a child where you accept that you have this loving parent that you can always go back to and cares for you the way that we care about our kids, and God in a way, if I were to give this scenario, God in a way takes you into his arms and says, don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. I'll take care of it. And that's what I think that every person deep down inside wants and needs, whether or not we're able to admit it or acknowledge it. We have that deep desire to want to be cared for and loved, and not having to have it all figured out. It's a very difficult concept because a lot of people are like, well, I'm not going to believe unless I see it. God's going to come through. Yeah, whatever. I have to do what I have to do to make it work. And even I'm guilty of having that kind of mindset sometimes where it's like, you're having this faith moment and I'm like, yeah, but you still got to do something. You still got to do this. And I don't think you're trying to say sit on the couch and wait for the blessings to pour in.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is you don't always have to be so busy trying to achieve and trying to overcome. There are times where God is just saying, I heard you, I'm moving, be still and wait, watch me come through. Mm-hmm. And those are the times that I'm just like getting anxious because I feel like I always have to do something. But I appreciate that perspective, and just being able to share that. I don't know where that's going to take us in the future. I feel like I'm in an okay spot right now. And usually that just means like, you know, a moment of peace before the storm hits. And, you know, just since we didn't really get a chance to talk about it, you know, about the whole dog thing, you know, Vanessa was telling me, expressing herself, and she was being very loving and very affectionate and allowing me to just kind of take all the information in. And I know you weren't happy with my response originally. But what happened is because you handled it the way you did, it gave me the opportunity to stop and think about it. And what's going to happen is we're taking in this another dog, right? And this is not a real life problem, but it is a good example of how God is moving in my heart in a different way than I've experienced before. You know, whereas before is I could get very cold and I could make a quick knee-jerk judgment decision. And I don't always think about the repercussions of who it might hurt, whose feelings it might hurt, or what the outcome might be for other people. I'm really just concerned about myself. And in a way, I'm thinking of all the best interests of everybody. In my mind, I'm thinking of all these other things that no one else is thinking about, the way you expressed about Lily, right? Yeah. And so I'm thinking about having to pay for more stuff, having to deal with more pet accidents and issues and pets fighting and noise and all this other stuff that Vanessa already gets irritated about, you know, gets upset about. But in her heart, she's thinking about Lily and more on an emotional level than what I'm thinking. And what I did was I was just kind of, I don't want to say I stopped and prayed, but just throughout the day, just having conversations with God, like, really, do I really need to do this? Do I have to? She can't have everything she wants all the time. You know, Vanessa can't get her way all the time. Or I knew she was going to be upset with me. How long am I have to deal with these sad faces and long faces? And I'm the villain all of a sudden. And I'm just trying to do what I think is best, you know, because I see you guys get frustrated. I see the animals like peeing on the carpet and pooping all everywhere. And, you know, and you get upset about it. And so my first reaction is like, I'm fighting with myself and I'm like, okay, I don't want to hear it. If the first time it goes pee on the carpet or poop somewhere, like, I'm not cleaning it, but I don't want to hear about it either. Like, you just suck it up and deal with it. But I remember a conversation during a podcast, and I remember, during our podcast, and it was like God just brought it to my attention or something. And I remember me saying that I was going to commit to something, to commit to be different and think differently. And in thinking differently, to try not to always find reasons not to do something. You know, and that's what I do. Like, whether it's in making a business decision, making a work decision, making a life decision, Vanessa would come up with this great idea and I'm like, nope, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. And here's all the reasons why. And my brain, you know, thinks very quickly that way, but it's always in the defense. Yeah. It's never for the offense. And I think I've just developed that in life, you know, being a survivor of things. So that conversation came to mind and I was like, okay, so maybe perhaps this is, what does it hurt? You know, what is it costing me? It doesn't hurt anybody, actually, you know, and it might cost me a little bit, but I don't think it's going to cost much. And I thought, okay, well, what are the pros? You know, it's going to bring happiness, you know, and it will. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I need to stop finding reasons to not do it and change my mentality like I committed to. But just because I said it to you, you know, that applies to all the areas of my life. Yeah. Much like the commitment that we make to God, it shouldn't just be when I'm in the middle of this problem, God, I promise, get me out of this one. And I swear I'm going to go to church, you know, or it's not just suited for being in church, but it's for all the areas of our life that we should have God involved. And so I thought, well, shouldn't that apply to all the areas of my life then, in all the ways that I think, with all the relationships that I have? And so when I thought about it, that's when I said, you know what, I've made the wrong decision. And it's because I should be thinking of reasons for it, you know, and nobody's going to get hurt. It's not life jeopardizing. It's not a life altering decision. You know, there's no weight. Like, it was just I had the authority to say no. And I just did because I had the authority, thinking that I was thinking in the best interest of people when it wasn't that serious. Maybe if it was like, we're going to, I don't know, jump out of an airplane, something like that. But it wasn't, I don't know, it just sounded so serious in my mind. And when I was by myself and just kind of praying out loud, I was like, it's not that serious,
Well, so. I'm glad that you saw that like that. And guys, I want you to kind of just take this moment, if you're still listening, just to understand this is 15 years. Like, we're going to be married 15 years, November 11th. And I want you to know that, if you have issues with your spouse, or if you're having issues, again, like me having to deal with that version of Joe has been 15 years. Like, this is just the dog, but this is 15 years. And it's really easy for you to think like, my husband's never going to change, and then be bitter. And then, okay, by 5th year, like, I want a divorce because it's never going to change. Like, this is living proof that when you make a commitment, and you take the good with the bad. Yeah. And it's not necessarily always bad, but it's just things that you allow God to work. When it's time, he will do that. And this is a perfect example. Like, you gave yourself up, you allowed God to move, and God moved. And because of that, like, everybody's going to get to benefit from that. Like, us, the kids, like, everybody, like, and it's not just like with him, it's vice versa. Yeah. There's things that I am just recently coming to, like, oh, let me figure, like, what I did, get close to you and hug you versus, get mad at you. So it's just like, no, it's and it, he's laughing, but it's not funny when you're in the moment, when True. The person is like, don't even talk to me, don't even look at me, like, because you love each other, but yet you become like the most vicious enemies in that moment. And it's hurtful. You say hurtful things, you do hurtful things, when at the end of the day, like, you guys are on the same team. Yeah. No matter what that person is doing, you can't control that, but you still love them. Yeah. So just love them through the process as well. Be patient, But all right, guys, we love you guys this week. Please be aware of how you react to situations. Be very vigilant of your heart, of the process of how you react. Think about, you're either going to give in to bitterness, or you're going to give in to just being patient with yourself, with what's going on, and with just God not answering your prayer, like, immediately. Like, be patient.
All right. God bless you guys. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for just giving us an opportunity to really see your hand at work. Lord, I pray that for everybody that's listening, that you would just continue to move in our hearts and move in our lives in a way that is just tangible, that we can see. Lord, help us to look for your hand at work all around us. For those that are struggling personally, Lord, I pray that you would give them a strength and a peace that gives them the encouragement to push through. For those that are struggling with their spouse, Lord, I pray that as they pray for their spouse, for their significant other, that you would not only hear their prayer, Lord, but allow them, just in that quiet place where they're at, to know that you're working on their behalf. Lord, help them to see results, to experience change, no matter how small. Lord, just prepare their hearts and minds to see you at work, to be committed and faithful to you. In Jesus' name we pray. All right, see you.